Welcome to the Wedco podcast, where wedding wisdom meets street smarts.
We're dishing out all the tips, tricks, and wedding goss to take your wedding to the next level.
Time to ditch the formalities and get this party started. Hello and welcome to the Wedco podcast. I'm Togger.
And I'm Joel, and we are here at the incredible Lussh in Brisbane City.
And today we have Tanya from Demavi, and let's predict it. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. It's a joy.
It is, and to be in such a beautiful place, very excited.
Yeah, stoked.
It's
Stoked to have you on.
absolutely gorgeous here.
Yeah,
Love it.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, we might start with a little bit of a backstory. Joel and I have known you for a while now.
Yeah.
So maybe a bit of a backstory of when you started in the industry and where you've come from. And then we can talk about, I guess, the rebranding process and the app as well moving forward.
Yeah, sounds great.
Cool.
So I'm Tanya. Most people know me from Sugared Style, which is currently being rebranded, as you said, to Demavi. I've been in the industry for 11 years, came from a corporate background, but now I'm doing wedding styling, floristry, and also a little bit of wedding planning.
Oh, amazing.
Awesome.
So is that recent, stepping into the wedding planning side of things?
It is. I came from wedding planning and then my floristry side of the business took off. So I dropped wedding planning, but now I have an in-house planner who takes on the planning and coordination clients. And then my focus personally is still on floristry and styling.
Okay,
Unreal.
perfect. Love that.
Were you doing planning for yourself, or you were through a venue, or previously?
No, just for myself.
Yeah, cool.
So originally before I started Sugared Style, I came from corporate events. So I was working for a mining company doing all of their events. Then the GFC hit.
Yep.
Thank goodness. No, I'm kidding. And I just found myself landing in the wedding industry. And I think it's a much nicer fit for me, the wedding industry, than corporate. And I started out in the planning side of things with styling as an add-on, but always loved what florists did. So I went and trained as a florist just before my wedding.
Yeah, wow.
Decided to do my own flowers for my own wedding. Advise no one does
Great
that.
idea.
But yeah, the floristry side of my business just organically grew. So I dropped the planning side of it, and I haven't been doing that since I think about 2018. But then when I had the opportunity to have an in-house planner, I jumped at it.
So good.
And we've worked with you everywhere. Where are you actually based and where do you service currently?
Yeah, absolutely. So I live at the beautiful Tamborine Mountain, which is
stunning.
Yeah, I'm really lucky. But that means there's a big drive everywhere I go. But I do service up to Sunshine Coast, down to northern New South Wales and Byron, and then out west to Dolby. Yeah.
Okay. So how many years was it? Sorry?
11 years.
11 years, far out. A lot of weddings.
Yeah, that is a lot of weddings. I've lost count.
Yeah.
And then I think we should talk about rebranding first.
Yes.
Okay, so why 11 years in are you deciding you need to rebrand now?
Absolutely. So when I started Sugared Style, I guess coming from a corporate background, I was seeing people spend crazy amounts of money on weddings. And so I tried to, I was really focused on micro weddings and elopements, which have really taken off now.
Yeah.
But 11 years ago, it really wasn't heard of. And I found myself just constantly being dragged back into the traditional wedding planning structure.
Yeah.
So I dropped sort of trying to do micro weddings. I also had the opportunity to manage Jimbo House, and I did all the weddings there. So just naturally, I went into just your normal wedding planning of just a traditional wedding structure. When I was doing the little micro weddings, that's where Sugared Style came from. It was actually Sugared Weddings back there, and it was the whole idea of love is sweet. You can have your cake and eat it too. You can have a beautiful wedding but not spend a fortune. And when I dropped that, then it became Sugared Style because I was doing a lot of styling as well. And I just feel over the years my style has changed. It's evolved into something that's not quite as cutesy and I guess feminine as Sugared Style sounds. And I just felt like I needed something that was a bit more strong, a little bit more defining in the industry. And so that's where I've decided to rebrand. It came around very organically because I did the wedding of a marketing guru
Yeah, wow.
Neve from Infix. So I spoke to her. She booked me on a recommendation. And when I spoke to her about sort of my business and things, she mentioned as well that she felt that Sugar Style just didn't fit the florist and the person that I am. So she's come on the journey with me, and her team I guess workshopped a heap of names, presented them to me. There were 9 all up. And then Demavi really, the meaning behind it really sat nicely with me, but the sound of it works as well.
Like you were
the
saying,
meaning?
You were saying like you wanted something a bit more punchy. I think it sounds so like Demavi. Like it sounds so good.
Absolutely. And I played around with putting like Demavi Weddings, Demavi style. I just went, no, I just want it Demavi, just like strong.
And then you can be a planner, stylist, cake maker.
Exactly.
What is the meaning behind it?
So it's a modern twist on a French word, or statement. So it's de ma vie, and it means of my life. So from my point of view, it works for my clients, and it also works for me because, you know, best day of my life, the love of my life, you know, it works for my client, but it also works for me, you know, best career of my life. Opening my business, best decision of my life. Like it works.
That's cool.
Yeah, it works from my perspective, but also from the client.
Yeah. And I feel like, so I used to have glass slipper photography, which I didn't like when I created it, but I was like, it's fine. It's cool.
It'll do.
And I definitely didn't resonate with it the whole time. And it's hard to kind of really back it and get behind it when you don't really believe in your own brand.
Yes.
Is a similar kind of
Very
feeling?
similar because I always felt like Sugar Style just, when people see me and like I'm not a very, you know, typical long hair blonde girl. Like I'm not pretty, you know, that kind of girly girl. I do have a bit of an edgy look to me, and so I think that it just didn't quite fit, and it never really has. But I just went with it because it's what developed in the beginning, and I just went with it. Whereas, you know, Demavi, even the logo, when they sent it through, like the color palettes that they sent through, you know, it's black and cream, and I just went, oh, this is so good. No more blush. I love it.
And like something that you'll be proud to show people as well.
Absolutely.
Like, this is who I am.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like it's weird, and I'm not sure how you felt when you had glass slipper, but I've felt for a little while that there was like a ceiling that I'd hit with Sugar Style, and I felt like I just couldn't break through this ceiling or this wall or something. Whereas even now, since deciding to rebrand, my brain has gone, and I'm gonna, you know, I can feel that I can expand now, which is really cool.
You don't put those limits on yourself. Like I even feel with like the magazines and everything like that, you've got a name that you don't believe in. I'm like, I'm pretty sure they're not going to feature me because of this as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I had a very similar sort of mindset too.
Oh, there you go. It must happen to a few more people.
I think so.
Where it just starts working and you're booking work and you're like, well, it's working. I'll just keep going.
Yes.
But just in the back of your mind, it's just like sitting there.
It's just not quite right. Absolutely. Even the logo, I changed my logo 3 times over the 11 years and it still always just wasn't quite right.
Yeah. Okay. And I feel like with the name as well, like high-end editorial are all the buzzwords of this year and last year, you know, as well. But it feels very much like you're going to be in that high-end realm, you know, with a name like that, with a brand like that you can get behind.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, your clientele are already amazing, but you're going to have a different clientele as well.
Absolutely. They are. Completely. I mean, Neve is a perfect example. She said that, you know, when she came to me, it was from a recommendation of a friend. And she said if she organically found me and saw my website, saw my branding, she probably wouldn't have booked me. Whereas, because she didn't feel that I was quite as edgy. Whereas now she said, just personally knowing me and being a client of mine. And I think that's really helped because she went through the process with me as one of my clients. So she sees how I work with my clients, the product that I produce. And then we did the branding after that. So it was good. She sort of went through the process on the other side and then advised me from there. So it was really cool.
Perfect. So if any branding people want to get married and they want me to photograph, I can do that for a swap of services or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the way to do it.
Definitely.
We'll get an accountant, we'll get a marketer. Done.
Who else is getting married? It was brilliant.
Oh, very exciting. And then to launch the new brand, are you doing, in the past I've seen you do a lot of styled shoots and you are in a lot of different places. Are you ramping that up or are you targeting your new brand in a different way than what you were with Sugared Style?
Yeah, absolutely. So previously, and this is a little bit of Zoe from Panorama Events, and I are really good friends, and I usually stay in my little bubble and don't get super involved in industry events and things like that. I kind of shy away. Yeah. Yep. And then she's like, no, let's get you out there. You know, you've got to come to this event. You got to do this. You got to do that. And so I'm saying a lot, yes to a lot more sort of industry events and getting involved and doing all of that stuff. So in this last half of the year, I have a heap of those happening, which is great that I'm sort of getting. And I thought it works because you know, then people will, because most people know my face, so they'll see me, they'll see the brand, and hopefully they'll be able to put two and two together that Sugared Style has now become Demavi.
Yeah. I think even age plays a part into that as well, because I've definitely in the past held back from all the industry nights and everything like that. But then now, like going to those things, I don't feel as seedy, and I don't feel like I have to put on this facade of who I am, because I think it is, you're just a little bit older, you're talking more to peers, all the older crew are kind of probably doing something else now as well, so you're almost getting up to that higher age level.
Yes.
That you don't have to put on this show for other people.
Yes, absolutely. I think also once you've got a bit more experience in the industry and you're confident in where you sit in the industry and your product, I think that's also helping, is that, you know, I'm confident in where I am.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And
that's like why I didn't really like events and stuff, because you're just like, I'm another photographer rocking up. I look 14. I'm the height of a 16-year-old. Like, yeah, like you got the baby face and whatever. So it's just like, just another bloke. Like who wants to talk to you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm an extroverted person, but also in those social events, I'm like, I don't like this. I'd rather just be at home, just doing my own thing, kind of. So
yeah, I'm exactly the same.
Yeah. Good to know that it gets better with age.
It does. It does. Or you just push yourself because you're like, I don't have much longer.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah. And that's it. The more you give to it, the better it is as well. Like the more you're just like, no, I'm going to commit, and it is what it is. And I think the more you put into it, the more you're going to get back, and people are going to resonate towards you and be able to chat to you. And like some of the people we've already had on the podcast, we've had some pretty high caliber people on already.
Yeah.
And just being able to chat to them, and it's just like, you are just peers. We're just talking, we're having a conversation, and we all run businesses, we service the wedding industry, but it does become really easy as well.
Absolutely. I agree. So, when I first, just speaking about that, when I first started out, I reached out to a planner who I felt was like my idol. I just absolutely adored her and looked up to her, and I went and had a coffee with her, and she was about 5 years ahead of where I was. And I was talking to her about it, and I said to her, I feel like I am faking it a little. And she goes, oh, we all are. She's like, don't worry about it. There's always a new step you're trying to figure out in business, in your career, and it's always a bit daunting. She said everybody's kind of tackling that next level. She says, so just accept where you are and keep working hard. So that was the best advice. Yeah.
Especially in a creative industry, I guess there's if you're in the creative world, it's not really like there's a wrong and a right or a this way or that way. It's kind of like do your thing, and then was it well received or was it not? And it might be well received over here, but not over here, you know? Like I feel like it's a bit of a dance.
Oh, very much. There's no formula. You just have to do your thing and go with a new idea and hope for the best. Yeah.
Are you still getting, are you getting most of your work from Instagram, or how do you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So I have some great relationships with different venues and also different suppliers in the industry that do recommend me, which I absolutely love. But Instagram is where 90% of my inquiries come from.
We've talked about it before when we do styled shoots. It doesn't cost us anything. You know, we take photos, take it home, whatever. The florists, they definitely get the hard part. It's like, I spent another $3,000 on florals, and like I better get some good photos and videos. Like there's a lot more on the line.
There is, absolutely. And I've done a lot of style shoots, especially recently. I get a lot out of style shoots because my flowers are in 99% of the film and video that I get back, like the photos and things. So I do get a lot out of them, but I'm very particular these days on styled shoots. I have to be, like I did one 2 years ago with a photographer I wasn't sure about, and none of the photos I could use, and I'd spent $2,500 on flowers. So I'm very particular about the team that they put together, but I'm finding that it's assisting me in showing people what I love to create, and I'm finding that my clients are now moving that way as well, and that I get sent photos from shoots that I've done a lot going, oh, I love this, I love this.
Yeah.
So it works for me. It can, as I said, if you get the wrong team, it can be an absolute waste, and they do cost a fortune for florists, and we really can't. Everybody says, are you going to reuse the flowers? We've stressed the flowers out on the day of the shoot. They can't be reused.
Yeah.
And I think the venues, like when we're speaking to White Stag too, they can see how much money you put into it. Like I think it's almost like they can see you're putting your money on the line, so then they're happy to kind of reciprocate as well.
Yes.
Like they were telling us about how many, I think you've done 4 shoots out of Tall Trees or something like that. And, and like that's a lot of money that goes into those shoots.
It is.
And so, and then there's like other florists that might just rock up like, hey, can I be on your preferred supplier list? And they're like, well, Tanya believes in our venue and she spent $10,000 to show us that.
Yeah.
Or someone else who floats in. Like it's a very easy choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Tall Trees I went out there and met with Danielle and Damo. And as soon as I met them, I went, oh, you're people I want to be around. And I base a lot of my relationships with suppliers on them and the vibe I get from them, the atmosphere of when you get there. Like you go out to Tall Trees, you guys went out there and your whole body just goes, like
totally.
they're just, and they're so
lovely.
such
Danny's
nice
lovely.
people. Oh, I love her. I just want to like be around her all the time. First time I met her, I went, you and I are going to be besties. So
But seriously, besties.
seriously, I'm calling you tomorrow. So I base my sort of where I situate myself with different suppliers on those things. And Tall Trees, she believed in me from the moment that I got there and I did that first shoot. She really believed in me. She loved what I did. And I just went, you know what, you're believing in me. I'm going to invest in you. And that's why I did probably go over and above with what I did for the wedding collective out there and stuff, like spilling flowers out of cars. And
It looked
amazing.
Thanks. But yeah, it's easy to get excited when the other person's excited.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're not necessarily you'll even match their energy, but it's like I'll put in what you're willing to give, you know, like what you like, that give and take. If it's like you're going to put in 50%, you're like, sweet, I'll rock up and I'll give you some stuff. But if you're frothing what I'm going to do and all of this, like you're going to be like, yeah, dude, of course I'm going to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I've found that the shoots that I've done this year have all been like that. Like they've been so just epic where everybody gets together and amazing creatives. It all just comes together really nicely. We did one not long ago at Winmere that had a bit of a Vogue vibe to it.
That was awesome.
I was meant to be the videographer. And
I know.
I know. Cancelled like 24 hours before it. What a reliable man.
Yeah.
Was it a sick child?
Yeah.
I thought so. Yeah.
But that looks stunning.
I completely agree.
I was gutted, especially when I saw the photos. I was like, oh, you idiot, Joel.
Yeah.
Why'd you have a child? No, I mean, I love you.
Was it Rolling Dawn did the film?
Sick. It's phenomenal.
I just love him. Like as soon as he turns up, the first time I worked with him, he was sitting there and he was going, from my perspective, if we just move this and if we tilt this way and if we do this, like he had so much input. And I think the result really showed because he did have his input. It's not like we threw something together and like I've done in the early days, we'd throw something together and then the photographer would turn up and go, yeah, the shadows over this table and the sun's the wrong direction and this and that. You go, damn, we didn't know any of that. Whereas he was there just giving so much input and insight from his side of things that I think that's why it just...
So
actually,
good.
my new website has 3 of his films on it. So,
Thank you. What's his name again?
Rolling Dawn.
Nick.
God, Nick.
Nick.
I should know. Our daughters do go skate school together.
Oh, actually, he did tell me that.
But going back to like doing things for venues, I feel like I'm trying to do the same thing at the moment where there's a few venues put on like even long lunches and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, let's go pay the money to go to the long lunch and really enjoy a really nice long lunch, but also just like put a little bit more money back into them. Like I know
Yes.
it's nothing in comparison, but just to show like all we're trying to do, like venues, like I said before, like they're at the top of the hierarchy, and it's like everyone's just trying to like, what can I get from you? And so it's like just trying to like, okay, cool, I'm going to go and spend $300 on a beautiful lunch with my wife, or like asking like, hey, can I do headshots for your staff or something like that, and just because they would have so many people asking them for things.
Oh, absolutely, they would, they would, and really they don't need anyone else.
Yeah, exactly.
In the industry, we all need them.
Yeah, exactly
so,
right. Yeah.
And running a venue, I would never do it. It seems like an impossible task to keep that many, clients happy over multiple aspects of their wedding. We're just taking care of one aspect, whereas the venue pulls everything together. So no, I have a lot of respect for venues. And when I find one that I really like, Kurumba, I did their very first wedding out there ever years ago.
Hectic.
Yeah. And it was next level. It was like torrential rain. And so their team were just chaotic because it was their first wedding. I was chaotic because there was just stuff wasn't working. We had, installations outside and it was pouring with rain. And so I think we pulled together, and I helped them, they helped me, and we just really pulled it together, and the couple was super happy. Yeah. And that really cemented my relationship with Kurumba.
Yes.
Last year, I think I did like 42 weddings just at that venue, which is crazy. But I think it's that when you respect them and you show that you actually care, I'll go in, and even the other day I was at a venue and I had some downtime, and I said to them, oh, do you want me to put your candles on the table, or can I set the glassware for you? And I mean, I'm there, so I may as well. Yeah. But I think those little things where you're showing respect for other people in the industry really goes a long way.
Yeah, definitely. It's even surprising, like when we work with, if I'm a videographer and I'll go get them a water. Yes. And then they're like, what the heck? It's just like such a small thing. They're just like, oh, no one ever normally looks after me. Yeah. So it's definitely, it's definitely appreciated when someone goes out of their way. Mm-hmm. I think that's just in general. It doesn't matter whether it's wedding industry or not. No, like everyone appreciates you looking out for them.
Yeah.
I think as a wedding vendor, go up to another vendor that you can't get anything off of.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like go up to someone that you're not going to get any work from and do something nice for them. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Just to do something nice, because it's so easy to just take.
And get in your own little world. Yeah. I have this job to do, and ignore that there are others around that are trying to achieve something as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to be a little bit like that when I used to rock up to like bride prep, and I kind of walk in, and I always felt like I'd kind of get like a weird look from like the makeup artist or the hairstylist or whatever. And it was not like they were doing it on purpose, but more just like you're walking in and you're just like, hey, like,
interrupting.
Yeah, they're busy doing their thing, and you're like, they're probably like, oh, this guy's about to freaking come in and take over and chat to her, and
oh, hey, what's up? Like,
but yeah, like, yeah.
I get the similar thing when I deliver bridal bouquets on the morning of a wedding. Yeah. I try to gauge from the bride whether she's going to be getting her hair and makeup done at that time, because I hate when I walk in and, the hairstylist is right in the middle of like,
and she's like,
crucial thing, and then the bride turns her head and I can just see the hairstylist go, really? So I try to be respectful. Right when I needed you not to do that. So I try to be respectful of them and give myself a buffer of time where I can stand there for 5 minutes while the makeup artist finishes this crucial part before the bride can get up and come and see the bouquets.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Love that.
Do you want to do questions before we jump into Let's Predict It?
The questions that I've got are for Let's Predict It.
Awesome.
Oh, nice.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay, well, what we'll do, let's talk about Let's Predict It. Like, it's very easy for us to talk business. Mm-hmm. We want to try and add more to couples.
Yeah, absolutely.
So can you tell us a story about Let's Predict Us?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I said before, came from corporate events. So in corporate events, the dollar is your main conversation point. They're trying to achieve a goal, but if you spend, especially in a mining company, if I spent, $100 over, they want to know why. Yeah, so I came from a very money-driven mindset when I came into the wedding industry. When I started wedding planning, I would have couples in the initial stages of planning say to me, yeah, we want this style of wedding. We want to get married at, Versace or something. And they'll go, now how much is my wedding going to cost?
Yeah.
How long's a piece of string?
Yeah.
But they, you know, lots of people aren't happy with that sort of answer. They want a ballpark right from the beginning, and I'm the expert. I should probably know. So I got pretty frustrated at it because, you know, you don't, as a wedding planner, you know, I would hear the question, well, how much do you want to spend?
Yeah.
Like, well, that's like going to a house builder going, I want a 3-story, you know, mansion and I want to spend $200,000.
Yeah, 50 grand would be great.
Yeah. And it's unrealistic. You know, the expert should know the answer. So I spent a lot of time researching and doing a lot of figures. As a creative, I probably shouldn't have a figure mindset as well, but I do. Love a good spreadsheet. And I came up with a formula that I could take, because the venue's the first thing that most people book. Yep. You can take your information from the venue, put it into this formula, and then it would predict your entire spend.
Okay.
I was just using it for my own clients just so that I could give them a ballpark and go, you know, if you get married at this venue, it's going to be around this much.
Yeah.
And I was getting pretty close most of the time. I then developed my spreadsheet further where it would then break down the dollar figures that we had to sort of aim to spend on every element of their wedding to then hit that ballpark.
Yeah.
And I was finding as well that if someone's getting married, it really worked over lots of weddings. So if someone's got a high-end venue that they're paying, you know, $300 a head for food and beverage, these people want a high-end product over their entire wedding. Yep. So the formula would then take that into account, that because the venue is a higher price point, then all of their elements of their wedding are going to be a higher price point. Yeah. Whereas if you put the formula in for someone to hire a DIY venue, get a food truck and bring in their own alcohol, you can put those figures in. But then again, the figures then represent a lower price point or a more budget-friendly price point for all of your elements of your wedding. Yep. So I was finding the only thing that it didn't take into account was if it's a structure like a 3-day wedding, like an Indian wedding or something like that, it has to be a more, you know, traditional Western style wedding for it to work. But it was getting pretty close. And I was finding it really helpful for my planning clients for me to go, okay, your price point for, you know, your photographer and videographer is this much, but your DJ or your band is this much. And then my client could say, well, photo and video is way more important to me than musicians. Yes. So then I was pulling money from here and putting it in here. And even though we were over budget here, we were under budget here. And so then overall, you know, the spend amount came out the same and we were on budget. Yeah. So I took, during COVID, I'm not very good at sitting still. As most people know, I'm water skiing and things. I've got 3 businesses and I've got this and that. So when COVID hit, I got very bored. And I thought, well, what else can I do? And I have a friend of mine, her husband is in the tech industry for startups, and I knew he could develop apps. So I took so good. I did their wedding. That's how I met them. So I took my spreadsheet to him and had dinner one night, and I went, hey, listen, this is a thing that I just came up with. Is it something? And he was like, oh yeah, this is something. We could make this into an app and, you know, it could really work. So we spent 18 months developing the app. Oh, wow. And then weddings started again. Yes. And it has sit pretty stagnant. So we're reskinning it at the moment with Neve from Infix, just to give it a bit more of a fresh look.
Awesome.
For everything else to do with the app is still the same. But this year I've decided, right, I've developed this app. I really need to do something with it.
That's awesome.
And I also believe in it. You know, like it makes me sad when I think that we put, you know, people book things not knowing, and then budgets blow out. Totally. And then that adds financial stress to them, and they're starting their married life in debt, in financial stress, arguing. Like it's not a nice thing. To me, I want to educate people from the beginning. And I'm not sure how venues will take this, but, you know, if you go with this style of venue, your wedding's probably going to cost this amount of money. And I mean, people can still pull back in other ways and still go under the budget, but it's just educating people from the beginning, you know, and giving them a realistic expectation of what they're going to spend if they go down that path before they book things. Like, you know, so many on-the-day coordination clients of mine would come to me and go, yeah, we're halfway through and we've run our money and we haven't booked this or this or this or this, and what do we do now? So I really think this app can be an answer to that.
Okay.
Definitely.
When you put in, say, the venue, do you have inbuilt venue names within the app, or is it just kind of, you just know they're going to spend $300 per person and then it'll kind of break it down from there?
Yes. So what the instructions are for couples who want to use the app is that they need to pick their maybe 3 top venues, go see the venues, inquire with the venues, and then they'll be given package documents that actually outline the different costs that are involved in booking that venue. Cool. So it'll be, you put in your approximate number of guests that you're expecting at your wedding, the wedding venue hire fee, and then your per person food, and then per person beverage cost. It can even be an approximate. You put those in, it's the free version of the app does this. So you put those in and then it'll come up with the overall dollar figure you are expected to spend based on that. Across the entire wedding.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So that's even including like adding a photographer and a videographer.
Absolutely.
It's just like, that's kind of the things that'll change the most. So that's why you got to add those. But florists, like these things are like low end's this, high end's this, somewhere in the middle is this. Yeah, cool.
So the free version gives you the overall amount that you're going to spend approximately on every element of your wedding. For a $10 fee, you can buy the paid version of the app. It's pretty affordable.
$10 a year or just $10 once?
Just once. And then
budget's gone to the wedding.
Should be upping that price soon. Jump on it soon.
I really hope so. So then it actually breaks it down into every element and it gives you a dollar figure. So it'll say photographer, videographer, you have to spend $8,000. Florist, $4,000.
Epic.
Dress, this much. But then it goes further. So then once you've booked a supplier, you put the supplier's name in there, the amount you've spent and your due date. But then it also will either come up in green or red. So green, you're under budget. Red, you're over budget. And it'll track how much you've spent so far towards your budget as well.
Awesome.
So it really is the whole way through. It's really assisting you from, from a financial side of things to keep track of your wedding.
I don't know if I should say this. I'm going to say it and we can cut it out if we don't want to. But,
That's fine.
But I almost feel like wedding planners are going to froth this app.
I hope so. If I was... if this app was around when I personally was wedding planning, I would have jumped on it. Absolutely. Because, it's an app that you can have on your phone. And when you go into your first meeting with a couple, you can sit there and, type it in and go, this is how much you're approximately going to spend on your wedding.
That's pretty
it's
professional.
a no-brainer.
If you sat down with a couple, if someone sat down with me when I was getting married and they're like, okay, you're looking at getting married at our venue, or if you were the planner, you're like, boom, 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 you put it in, you're like, cool, this is what it's going to look like.
Yes.
You were wanting to spend X, Y, Z, we can do that. Or, hey, maybe push the wedding back 6 months so you can afford it, or like go sell your feet pics, whatever you want to do.
Jump on OnlyFans for 6 months. It also does work that way. We're starting a blog as well, so we give tips like that. So, in your early stages of planning before you choose a wedding date, choose your venue that you love, figure out what that overall amount is, divide it by how much you can save per month. Then it'll tell you, get married in 2 years, get married in 18 months, and then you can choose a realistic wedding date as well. And financially you can afford it and not stress yourself out as well.
Yeah, exactly. Rather than being like, oh, what's that date that's going to be really cool? Oh, the 4th of the 4th, 24. Okay, cool. And then you're just like, cool. And I want a $70,000 wedding and it's in 3 weeks. You're like, well.
And how in the world am I going to get that amount of money?
I feel like even wedding planners, like being, say, Gold Coast, Byron, wherever, they could almost know their top 10 venues close to them.
Yes.
And almost be able to preemptively put those costs of what each venue is there, and at least kind of, well, you're getting married here, then it's probably going to be close to X amount of dollars,
Yes.
like depending on how many people you're going to have.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The reason why I was
is
saying,
great.
sorry, the reason why I was saying like we could potentially take this bit out was I was like, oh, like I wonder if there'd be like, you say it's $10 for the app. I wonder if there's almost like a subscription thing that the like planners get extra, that they pay like a monthly fee like we do with all our apps for photos and videos or whatever. But like then they might get access to, I don't know, like whatever that is, but then they can use it in all their client meetings and stuff.
Absolutely. In the future, we do have some steps that we want to take in the future. So at the moment, you really can only put one person, like track one wedding in the app. But we are looking at then doing a subscription base where you can have multiple
Awesome.
in there, just purely because then the tech behind it will be so much greater. I'm also in the future looking at possibly then having a directory where you can click and the vendors via price point.
Yep.
So like, for example, with flowers, I can sit there and go, well, I want to be considered in, you know, the 4,000 to 8,000 bracket, the 8,000 to 12,000 bracket, and that's where I want my advertising. But it also means that couples don't have to inquire with, you know, 50 people before they find one that one fits their style but also fits their price point. But that's way in the future when I have much more time.
Yeah, that's in June.
The free app.
Yeah, exactly. Rebranding now, so
The free version can have other wedding vendors advertising, like a wedding photographer pops up. I don't know.
I have thought of all of these things.
Yeah.
So I mean, it'll be exciting
So many
to
different
see
avenues.
where it goes. I'm pretty excited about the app.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. All of a sudden you're like, you get to choose like if you're doing florals anymore. You know, like this app could be like big, and then you're just choosing the jobs you 100% want to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's only work in the places you want to work.
The reason I haven't sort of gone down the path of having set venues attached or set suppliers is that at the moment the app is open to, you know, a European market, the American market, you know, Canadian weddings, Australian. So at the moment, it really isn't limited to who can utilize the app.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you could have, there's so many ways you could take that, and we're going to come back to talking about business again.
Yeah, we are.
All right, let me jump in and we'll riddle off some questions. So some questions that I think our audience would love to hear. Oh my God, I need help with my budget. What are your top 3 tips to manage it better?
Okay, so my first
buy the app. Buy the app. Buy the app.
No, I always say when I was planning, I would always say to clients, choose the elements that are non-negotiable for you. So for me, it was I wanted great music, I wanted a great musician, and also my photos. I wanted to be beautiful. So I was going to choose those ones not on price, but on who I wanted. Then everything else I based on price. Awesome. So, and then I think it's a little bit of a, prioritize what is non-negotiable for you and then figure out everything else after.
Yep. Love that. We covered this. Is the wedding budget app free or is it a subscription paid? So it's a once-off purchase for $10.
It is
currently.
Yeah,
until planners get on. What's the average cost of a wedding?
So ABIA actually did a study recently. I think it was sitting at around $40,000. Maybe. Back when I started wedding planning, it was around 32. I feel that it's probably closer to 50, 60.
I thought it would have been higher.
Yeah. I can't actually remember what the figure is from ABIA. I quickly read it the other day.
Cool.
But I do remember when I read it thinking that's lower than what I thought it was.
Yeah. And it'll be so regional. You know, go to Melbourne, go to Sydney, go to Brisbane, go to Europe.
Exactly.
Is a $20,000 budget me dreaming?
Depends on the structure of a wedding. You know, if you have a cocktail style wedding, smaller numbers, things like that, I think you can do it. It just depends on how negotiable you are and how flexible you are. You know.
Yeah, I hear that frequently. Not frequently. I'm not talking to everyone every day about it, but I've heard it a bunch over the last number of years where they're like, we want to get married, we only want to spend 20 grand. And then like my first question is like, how many people you invite? And they're like, oh, we've got like 60 families, so we'll probably end up having 100. And I'm like, you're dreaming.
Yes.
Like 100% you're dreaming. Unless you're getting, like, dude, you can't even do that at McDonald's. Like let alone like a nice restaurant. Like, yeah.
I have had planning clients back when I was planning, and even recently with just doing the flowers and styling, I seem to get dragged into other elements of the wedding. And, you know, they've gone and they've had a really beautiful ceremony with a few people and then gone to dinner and at a really nice restaurant with, you know, their other 30 or 40 people, and you can make it happen.
Yeah.
It just depends on how flexible you are with what you want to achieve.
Yeah. We've had times when it's like your 50% of their budget could be photo and video and everything else is, like you said, it's a barbecue at home and it's on a private property. And, but then there's other times when you're 5% of the budget, you know, and it's like just, completely depends. Yeah, what range they're in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How do you feel about, because I don't know if it's so much of a thing anymore, but I feel like a lot of people have this perceived idea of private property wedding / DIY. I don't want to say DIY because it's not really necessarily DIY, but they're more like, I've got this friend that has a property or my parents have a property and then you got to bring in everything. And I think they had this preconceived idea of that's going to be cheap.
Yes.
And like everyone you talk to in the industry is like your dream. Like it's way more expensive than a venue.
It is.
But like anything that you want to add on to that for
definitely. Again, when I first started out, I did a lot of those and they blew out. Every single one blew out and people forgot so many logistics.
Toilets, cold rooms.
Yeah, absolutely. Who's actually going to make sure that the toilets are clean? Who's going to pick up your glassware? What are you going to do with all the rubbish when you're finished?
Yeah.
Power was always a big thing. And I would always say to people, they go, we'll just run power off the house. Yeah, you run everything off of one circuit and you're going to blow your circuit. You know, it always blows out, always blows out. And it's beautiful. If you want to get married on your property for an emotional reason or anything else, go for it.
100%.
But the stress as well that you put onto your family, your friends, because they're the ones that a lot of this stuff lands on, that they have to be there, you know, 2 days before when cold rooms turn up and marquees and everything else. You know, unless you hire a planner and you have them there for 3 or 4 days, you know, it's going to land on everyone around you. And the stress levels are so high. So if you're thinking that it's going to be cheaper, 100% no, go to a venue and trust the professionals.
Yeah, definitely. We've shot a bunch of weddings where, you rock up to the private property and you're like chatting to the dad because he's driving you around on their 4x4 or whatever, so the portraits, and you're chatting to him and he's like, I've been out here for 3 weeks mowing the lawn, and you're like, oh man, like, oh yeah, we had some bugs, so I had to get rid of them, and just like all these things, and you're like, oh, like, and the couple's like, we just rocked up yesterday, and you're like, Dad's like,
I have had one family I've done a few weddings for, and the parents, because all the kids were getting to the age where they were getting married, so the parents bought the property next door, leveled the house, and then actually had it designed for marquees to go on there. Oh, wow. And then they ran all their kids' weddings through in a marquee on that property, and then they sold the property.
Was like cheaper by the dozen? How many kids do they have?
I did 3 of the weddings. Wow. They have more kids than that though.
Wow.
What are 3 hidden costs that people wouldn't think of for a wedding? Like say the app, are there any like hidden tricky ones you wouldn't think of that come up in the app as far as budgeting?
No, not really. The app is pretty self-explanatory with, it goes through the main things. It does have miscellaneous. Lots of people don't factor in little things like, you know, gifts for people. You need to get your dress taken up, all of your prep stuff beforehand, all of the little stuff for, you know, groom and groomsmen, and shoes and socks and ties. And, you know, it's all mainly little stuff that they don't think about. Wishing wells, cake knife. You know, it's mainly the little stuff that they, or if they haven't asked the right questions of the venue. When I was planning, a lot of the times it would be that they hadn't asked about their wedding cake being cut, and then they would be charged, you know, a cake cutting fee, or I would be there cutting it. It's just, and I mean, venues can give heaps of information, but they can't answer all your questions. And some people sometimes have a weird request but then forget to ask, and then later on find out that there's an extra cleaning fee or there's an extra something. So yeah, it's usually just little stuff that they haven't thought about until it comes up,
Yeah.
I guess.
It's like when you're
or the day.
renovating and you do 37 trips to Bunnings, 37
Yes.
$100 trips to Bunnings. You're like, I need another bolt. And you buy 10 bolts. And you're like,
silicon.
Yeah. And you go, but I got the big stuff.
yeah, exactly.
I got the big stuff.
And
Why
I
do
saved money
need the
because I
little
bought
stuff?
I bought the bigger tool, but it's going to save me money in the long run because you're going to do this another 6 times.
Yes.
That's why I've got so many tools in my house.
Yeah.
But yeah, I read about like bridal alterations and like I didn't think about that. I don't know how many
Yeah.
brides are, but like I've bought the dress. It cost me $5,000. I didn't think about the $350 to go get it altered
Yes,
afterwards, or the
absolutely.
You know, a lot of big ones at venues are like there might be like a big light wall or something like that, or some festoon lights or something.
And they assume it's included.
It's just I booked to the
yeah.
venue and it's not included, and they're like, oh, that's another $5,000. And you're like, whoa, I didn't.
But it was there the day that I viewed the wedding. It's like,
yeah.
that's because they bought that. Like,
Yes, exactly.
not bought it, hired it. Yeah.
It is. It's just being very ask as many questions as you can of your suppliers. Like even when I was planning, I'd have all the contracts sent through just so I could read the fine print, because lots of people don't read the fine print. Just so I could read the fine print of different suppliers and then flag with people and go, hey, listen, did you know that this isn't included, or did you know that this is a thing? And not against anyone. Like I absolutely adore everyone in the industry, but you know, we all have to have guidelines and we have to have limitations, but couples don't always read that and they assume one thing and it's something else.
Yeah. And I don't think, I mean, I'm sure there's a few, but I don't think anyone's doing it to be sly.
No, absolutely
It's just like,
not.
it's just like, this is, if a venue only knows their venue and they kind of play in their ball game and they're just like, cool, this is what we include. And then another venue is like, well, we include everything.
Yes.
And so then if you've already been to the venue that's like, we include everything,
Then
you
you
could have
just
been at
assume.
2 that were like that. And then your third doesn't include everything. You kind of assume, oh, this is lovely. All this is included. Yeah. Read the fine print.
Yes, read the fine print.
Yeah, it comes down to like decibel levels, like having bands, all that
100%.
kind of stuff. Where you
Yes.
don't even think about it. Like, oh yeah, all I've
Exactly.
ever wanted was a band, and then I booked a venue because it looks stunning, but I can't have
Have the band.
Yeah, exactly right.
I had that. We had that not long ago, where they wanted a 5-piece band. And they're like, our noise restrictions won't allow that. And then we caught it before the wedding. Thank goodness.
Good.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, then, can you give any other advice you think, like for budgeting? It's a tricky one, but any other advice you could give to couples? Hire a planner.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Yeah, definitely a big one.
Is there any red flags that you could think of for a wedding planner that you'd be like, or like look for someone that has?
My biggest thing when I was planning and then even now is just make sure you know the limitations. What are they actually going to do? Are you just have a on-the-day coordinator where you have to do everything and then they're just going to come in and make it happen on the day? Are they going to be involved at any stage? Are they going to jump in a month out? Have you got a wedding planner that's going to be there till the end of the wedding? Are they finishing at 9 p.m.? Like just get some really specific guidelines on what they are going to be providing for you and make sure that works for you.
Yep. And I want to just, bring it back to florals. I'm just starting a florals business.
Yes.
Are you?
What recommendations would you have for me? I'm starting right now.
Yes.
Obviously, you've made a really successful business.
Thanks.
What 3 tips would you give someone starting out right now?
Okay, so don't ever underprice yourself.
Yep.
It's very hard to, see your value, see your worth and make sure you're priced for that. It's very hard to create a business that isn't sustainable. If you want to be successful, it has to be sustainable right from the beginning. Yep. I make sure that I'm always very clear on what I'm going to provide, what my limitations are. So if someone wants, a specific flower, but they're getting married in January, I'm very clear on telling them that, it's a beautiful flower. It's going to wilt super quick when you put it in your bouquet. I make sure that you're very clear and very open with the client on what you can and can't achieve for them. And just show up. Just get yourself out there as much as you can. I did some training with someone who wants to get into floristry in December, January, and she is now helping me, which is amazing. But I was having this discussion with her the other day and she's about to sort of put out a little range of dried flowers on a website for people to start buying. She said, I'm really scared about putting myself out there and my product. What if nobody likes it? I was like, well, you just have to. Like you just have to put yourself out there. You know, everybody has different styles and someone's going to love it. So yeah.
And like, even if they didn't, not saying that they wouldn't, but like, even if they didn't, you'd learn so much from that. You know, like you do this thing, like my first photos, dreadful. Yeah. But you learn so much from it. I think my first wedding, I knew that I was going to suck. Had Steve come and second shoot it with me, and I think I was at a weird spot for when the first kiss, or maybe I think it might have been the rings. Yeah. And so I technically missed the ring shots, but Steve obviously knew what he was doing, so then he got that ring shot. You learn so much.
You do, and I mean, we're still. I don't know about you guys, but I'm constantly.
I'm the best.
I'm constantly learning and constantly, you know, looking up to so many different florists in the industry and watching what they're doing, going, wow, that's incredible. Yep. You know, and really going, now how can I push myself? How can I do that? So I think having a mentor really helps.
Yep. Winter or summer weddings?
Oh, winter. Absolutely winter. I got married personally in May because I didn't want to sweat in my dress. I didn't want my makeup to come off. And I love the flowers at that time. So winter, 100%. We live in Queensland, people. Who wants to sweat in their wedding dress?
Love it.
Evidently me. I got married in February.
All right. And then where can people find you?
Okay. So rebranding at the moment. I will be done by the time this comes out, which is really exciting. So demavi.com.au. Demavi on Instagram, search me up. I'm one of the only ones on there. And the Let's Predict It app, you can find it on the App Store just by putting in Let's Predict It or let'spredictit.com. Is my website.
Beautiful.
Had to think there.
I love it. I think it's an awesome thing that the industry needs.
Thanks.
Much like this podcast, we felt like it was a needed thing in the industry.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I think it's awesome to see. Yeah, people. Same thing. It's like we hear a lot of feedback from people saying it's so good that this podcast. It's like having a chat and like it's just like. We're photographers. Why would we want to speak to people? Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And so it's cool to see like. You know, you started as a florist/planner, and it's cool to see that you're creating something not floristry, not like creative, you know.
And going back to like the sky's the limit with that app, I feel like that is the truth. Like the amount of different ways that you could take that.
Absolutely.
And everyone always comes up to us, they're like, how are you going to make money from the podcast? And we're like, it's not really about that. Like we're good. But also looking at your app, it's like there are tons of like, there's a lot of ways that you could be making money at that as well. Like once it grows and establishes, there's so many different ways. I definitely know I'll be advertising on the app once that comes around.
Thanks. I'll keep that in mind.
Don't tell anyone else. It's for me.
And you will be the biggest, biggest one right on the front page.
Perfect.
You know, you have to pivot and think about long term. I can't do flowers forever. So
exactly. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
It's my pleasure. Awesome. Thanks for having me.
It's been awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I've enjoyed it.
Thanks for tuning in to the Wedco podcast. We're dropping a fresh episode every week featuring industry professionals dishing out the wedding wisdom you need to turn those dreams into reality. Make sure you are following us on social media, you have those notifications turned on so we can help plan your wedding day. Your dream wedding day just got a whole lot easier. Thanks for listening.